Helen Longino takes what is, on the surface, a very different view of feminist epistemology than Susan Hack does. At the very least, she doesn't rule it out at the outset. She wants to figure out what it could mean to be a feminist epistemologist. Could it mean anything at all, and could there be some project to it? And she's looking at it in a much more positive light, not trying to, as Hack says, or as Hack wants to do, show that it doesn't make any sense at all. And so, what could make an epistemology feminist? According to Longino, it's that it does the following things. It reveals the role that gender plays in inquiry. So if epistemology is a study of inquiry, how we come to know, how we come to have true or justified beliefs, what makes it feminist is that it reveals the role that gender plays in this process. And she says, prevents the disappearance of gender as part of the discussion. So gender should be part of the discussion, according to her. This is the kind of gloss she gives. I know this doesn't say a lot about what feminist epistemology is, and we'll say a little bit more about how she's thinking of that soon. But she wants to note, I think she thinks that this is valuable, doing feminist epistemology, because she thinks, look, if gender disappears from the discussion of theorizing about how inquiry works and about how we come to know things, it's, she thinks, going to lead to the devaluing of women and devaluing of their contributions in epistemology. This is not just in epistemology, but in all ways of thinking. And she thinks this is bad for social reasons. Women should be treated fairly, and their contribution should be evaluated in equal ways or in equitable ways. But she also thinks it's bad for epistemological reasons, because she thinks it means we're going to have a narrower, less productive view of knowledge in a particular field. And she goes on, she has this very notable quote where she says, look, it's hard to see how one could be for or against feminist epistemology, except insofar as one is for or against feminism. And she thinks this because we don't want to lead to these bad conclusions of devaluing women and their contributions, which are bad for both, as she says, social and epistemological reasons. Now, of course, I think Hack would disagree with this. Hack might not even say that she's against feminist epistemology. She might just say it doesn't make any sense. So when we think about the central things, according to the central tenets of what makes an epistemology feminist, according to Longino, we should notice that they are methodological tenets. They're not content-oriented. There's no particular content, she says, that must come out of a feminist epistemology. So it's not like, say, being Catholic or an atheist. If you're an atheist, you have to believe that God doesn't exist. Otherwise, you're not an atheist. If you're Catholic, you have to suppose, I guess there's some set of beliefs you have to have that makes you a Catholic. At least that's part of what it is to be Catholic. So there's some content to being these things. She thinks feminist epistemology isn't like that. It's not that all feminist epistemologists must accept some particular definition of knowledge or of justification in order to be a feminist epistemologist. Feminist epistemology isn't sort of a doctrine. It's not a set of beliefs in epistemology you have to have. For her, it's a method or a way of doing epistemology that reveals the role that gender is playing. It's a way of approaching the problem about the method, which makes valuing women's experiences and contributions a central component. So that's the sort of way that Longino is thinking of feminist epistemology. And as you read and as you can tell, she thinks it's a valuable project. It's a project that we should take part in. And unlike Hack, she thinks it's a project that makes sense when thought of along these methodological lines.